It's member-supported Hawaii Public Radio, All Things Considered, and I'm Dave Lawrence. We are fortunate today. We've got a very special guest joining us, guy I got to talk to over a decade ago, just once on the phone, and he's coming with his band. It is Def Leppard coming to town for a pair of shows at the Blaisdell Arena Friday and Saturday night. First time back in the islands in decades. I've been doing some homework. We'll run it by our guest, guitarist Phil Collen. We've got him on the line right now. It's a huge thrill to welcome him to All Things Considered. Hey, Phil, aloha. Good to speak with you again, brother.
Thank you. Great to speak to you again as well.
And so from the press release for this thing, from the promoter, it says this is the only show on the North American tour to play Hysteria in its entirety. Is that because of the tour with Journey this summer just won't include the album play because of the timing? Or
yeah, but I didn't realize that. That's interesting you said that. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. It is because, you know, if we do that, it'll take a little bit longer. It'll go over for sure. And when we're playing with Journey, it's an hour and a half. Plus, we didn't want to do that with the Journey tour. You know, we actually wanted to do like a greatest hits and all this other stuff. So, and, you know, support the catalog that's just been released on digital. So really, that's it in a nutshell.
That's a special thing then, you're saying, for the Hawaii folks.
Absolutely.
So it's going to make it a really unusual tour. And when did you start, just for reference point on that, when did you start doing Hysteria all the way through as a single piece?
We've only ever done it, well, twice. We've done it in Vegas. We've done Viva Hysteria. We had a residency in Vegas. And, you know, people came from all around the world, you know, people from Chile and Europe and everything. And we also done a festival in France, you know, just after that. But that's the only time we've ever done it. So this is the first time as part of a tour, and yeah, it's going to be really fun, actually.
Wow, and so it's really a special thing. So once in France, another thing with the residency in Vegas, then this is a real... This really is an unusual thing. I like that. Have you ever, and a lot of bands do that, as you probably know, and it's a cool way. It's a great way to recycle and to be creative with one's catalog, to be able to celebrate releases. And as you said, when you re-release things digitally or do things like that, it's a great way to get the word out. But had you ever done anything like that to celebrate other milestones, like, for example, with Pyromania?
No, we're not very good at that kind of celebrating. I mean, it's great and it should, but we just don't do it, you know. And to be quite honest, even when we've, you know, the requests for the show we did in France and the Japanese tour, Australia, New Zealand and Britain, they all requested it. It was actually like promoter requests, which was kind of weird. We thought, great, it's different for us, because it's vastly different from doing our regular thing. It was actually quite thrilling to actually do something that was almost theatrical. You know, we approached it. We didn't just, like, we're a rock band and we're just going to blast this stuff out. We actually treated it as a very theatrical kind of output. And it was really, really super cool, I got to say.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of work to structure something like that. And then for the fans, it's a pretty unusual thing. One time I got to see Springsteen do The River at Madison Square Garden. So I know what you mean. It's like it's like a theatrical thing to hear a record that you know really well in its order and put that way. And when it comes to the fact that you're coming back here, again, it's Phil Collen, guitarist of Def Leppard. They're making a historic return to the islands. And on that note of historic, not only because of the way you're going to be doing this album play with Hysteria, but I was trying to dig into your history. I was looking both on your official website, I guess, for the band, and also some of the fan websites, because you're blessed to have fans who keep track of the stuff that you've done over the decades. And it looks like the first time, and maybe the only time, you guys played Hawaii was in September 1983 at the Blaisdell Arena. Does that sound remotely possible to be the only time?
That is definitely the only time. Yes, for sure.
Wow. You remember it at all?
I absolutely do. Actually, me and Steve Clark wore a grass skirt for the encore. Absolutely. We came on.
That's a good memory.
Yeah, absolutely. I distinctly remember. We played soccer against this local team, and no one had any shoes on. I remember, a bunch of it, actually. Obviously, I've been back to Hawaii a few times since, but usually Maui.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. So you have never come to play since then, but you've come, I guess, on just vacations and stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
Any other of those
Yeah.
experiences stick out? Like anything you've done here that was a special? Sometimes people get married here. Sometimes they come for a friend. You know, a lot of famous people live over on Maui. So just seeing if there was something like that.
No, just check it. I mean, such a gorgeous place. Like, you know, watching sunsets and all that stuff. So it's that was pretty much it, really.
That's cool. And you did some soccer when you were here, barefoot.
Yeah.
I like that. And boy, you sure have lived in California a long time to call it soccer and not football, huh? You really are American.
Did I say that? Did I actually say that? I drifted straight into soccer. Wow, I guess so.
That's incredible.
That is interesting.
It is. And so back to this summer tour with Journey, which is a really amazing sort of thing for fans of the band when you look at it. It's not the first time you've toured with them, right? Haven't you done stuff with them before?
Yeah, 2006, actually, we did that. And I'm actually going to just change over to the phone because I can't open the window and I'm roasting in here. So hang on a second.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Sounds wonderful.
Is that even better?
That's even better.
Perfect. Great.
Sounds
Yeah, so, sorry, what was you saying?
Yeah, so I was just saying, so when I was looking at this this big tour that Def Leppard is embarking on with Journey, it's not just, I mean, a lot of classic rock bands for decades have toured together and combined their shows in sheds and different outdoor venues to make it work. And this one is a departure from that in some ways because some of the dates are huge stadiums like Fenway Park in Boston, there's Wrigley Field, AT&T in San Francisco. When you guys are doing this, are you switching the headlining spots?
Yes, absolutely. You know, whoever's more popular in that market, or you know, when Journey, when they're from the Bay Area, so when we do San Francisco, they'll close that night. So yeah, we're just being cool about it. So it's
And then what about the Fenway Park? Who's closing in Boston?
We are actually.
Wow.
Because we're badass, I guess.
And you know, I'm assuming you know that's like, of all these places you're playing, that's a very historic one that only until the last 15 years or so, they never even let bands play in there.
I know, you know, it's quite the honor, I got to say. So we're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's an unusual one. It's a very small group of cats who've been in there. So when I saw that on the thing, Phil, I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, they're letting anybody in Fenway now. It's just...
I know, absolutely. Yeah, I thought they'd made a mistake. So yeah, that was pretty interesting.
And with a career of these massive tours and festival dates over your life, I would imagine that some stick out for being unusual, maybe if you're on the bill with a hero or close friend. And something else that's kind of weird is, you guys, do you ever have people sit in, or that doesn't really happen with Def Leppard?
Not really. I mean, usually the songs are pretty complex, and unless we just, like, we done, you know, a Creedence song once, and we got Brian May up from Queen, and I think Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora another time, and that was pretty simple. But, you know, stuff like Photograph and you know, those songs, they're very specific, and the harmonies and that, we don't want someone to mess it up. So we traditionally don't do that, you know. Having said that, you know, I just got off the G3 tour with Joe Satriani and John Petrucci, and we would have a jam section every night, you know, about half an hour, 3 songs, and we'd invite guitar players up, and that was amazing. That was really fun. But in Def Leppard, it's a very different structure, if you like. You know, so the songs are very structured. You know, we use backing vocals as an instrument, and all of a sudden you can't really let anyone in on that because it's going to just change the dynamic.
I wonder if, that's so interesting how you mentioned that. When I think about your side projects, and again, this is Phil Collen from Def Leppard. They're going to be playing at the Blaisdell Arena, historic return to the islands, their first time back here since 1983. Phil also has some side projects that, riffing on what you were just saying, I'm imagining like, does Man Rays and Delta Deep allow you to satisfy some of that stuff that it would be a little bit trickier to do with Def Leppard?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, it does, because it's not got that structure. Like I said, you know, we have this instrument that's the backing vocals. Me, Rick Savage, and Vivian Campbell, we kind of lock in. It's almost spiritual the way we get to sing together. I love it. It's just a very special thing. But yeah, the other bands don't do that. You know, me and Debbie Blackwell Cook, we harmonise all the time. But a lot of the time we can do it on the fly. We was actually on live radio this morning, and we were just breaking out a song acoustically, and we naturally can do that. But with Def Leppard, we have 3-part harmonies. It's very structured, and it is like an instrument. So we tend not to do that. But yeah, Delta Deep and Man Rays, we're able to kind of drift off and do a jam thing, just like not necessarily just an old blues jam, but literally go off on a tangent, like the Police used to do, or just that whole 3-piece thing, and 4-piece in Delta Deep's case. It's really fun, and you can't do that with Def Leppard because it'd be like a house of cards. It all comes tumbling down.
That's a great description. And on that structure, and forgive me, I have not heard it to be more educated about it, but you're talking about the structure of the songs and the way that it comes together in a complicated fashion at your shows. For Record Store Day, you just released Live at Abbey Road, and I didn't hear it yet. So is that, when you went in to do that, does that allow itself, because there you are in a studio, so it's not really a live performance, so maybe the aesthetic changes?
Yeah, but we still lock in. I think we were in tour mode. I think once you get into that, it's a very... Again, you lock into it. And I think we were so geeking out the fact that we were in the, one of the big rooms in Abbey Road. It was like, ooh, this is really cool. And, so it had that spirit to it as well, So we just done what we normally do. We always say we're with the 85% brigade. If someone has a terrible night, there's a good chance that someone else had a great night. And we never fall below 85%, even if it's us playing in a room.
I like that. That must have been was that your first time walking into that place, and did you use some of the historic mics and other gear that the Beatles had used?
I'd been in there before, because I remember years ago, there was this kind of radio station thing, American radio stations, all set up like, like a food court almost, where there's all these stores, and they're all broadcasting live back to the States. And I'd go around doing interviews on different ones, and that was the first time I went there. That was in the big room, so that was cool. And Yoko was there, and it was the whole Beatles thing, and so that was interesting. But playing there, it actually did feel different. It actually felt really, really great, and you did feel some kind of vibe in there,
You had to, man. It's such a. I've stood outside of it. It's in a great location too.
Right? Yeah. I mean, we just played the Royal Albert Hall for the first time in London, and that's a 150-year-old building. It's hosted so much amazing stuff. Opera, ballet. Cream's last show, and God knows what. And we done the Teenage Cancer Trust, and that was great. It was for such a great cause. We got to meet some of the victims and some of the survivors and stuff like that, and that was amazing. It was one of the best shows we've ever done. So I think we keep pushing the bar. We keep getting better. We keep getting better as singers and players. And, obviously just coming off the G3 tour, I was playing with those monster guitar players every night, and some of it rubbed off, and my playing was just got a lot better as well. So we really try and pride ourselves on pushing it out there and making the show better. We're constantly checking out other bands, everything from U2, whether it's Beyonce or Queen or whatever it is, whoever's got a cool thing going, we take notes and just try and make ourselves better. So it's still working. So we're thrilled. It makes it so exciting, I got to say.
You must be thrilled, and you sound like you're really excited. And you mentioned doing the Teenage Cancer Trust, and one of the neat things about you is you have given back in your life, and that's an important area that sometimes when you're talking to people like you, people don't talk about as much. They get all caught up like in the things that we already have sort of talked about. How has Vivian Campbell's struggle with cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma, touched you or changed your life?
We've been through a few of these things. Steve dying and Rick losing his arm. We was kind of shocked when Viv came in. He had this cough for like 2 years, and it just wouldn't get better. He kept going to all these different doctors, and then he got the news, and it was like, whoa. The great thing about it, they said, look, there's this new drug, and it's in the test stage, and would you be up for doing it? And he did, and he's been absolutely fine while he's on this thing. He actually just had some treatment a couple of weeks ago, and he's doing great. He's doing amazing. His head's in a great place, and he's healthy, and it's so far so good. So fingers crossed, and that seems to be working really well. And the thing kind of went up, the cough went away, and he's doing really well.
And you mentioned him. I mean, certainly Rick Allen, your drummer. I played drums, not well or anything, but it was the one instrument that I gravitated to. And you think about cats who are an inspiration, going on to play for over 30 years now with one arm. I mean, and I can imagine you when you're around people who have. My mom had MS. She was in a wheelchair. I always looked at her as a hero because the crap that she put up with to still have joy in her life was mind-blowing.
Absolutely.
And so when I look at you, and I took it for granted after a while, right? Only after I lost her can I really appreciate, my God, you were such a hero to be able to put up with that. And then I look at when you're on stage, right, and you turn around, you must get used to it because it's been decades now, but you think of like, my God, this cat, what tenacity he has.
What's really cool about it, you do get used to it from a sound point of view, but you never take it for granted. You know, you really go, wow, this is amazing what he's doing. And then I, hear other drummers and I go, well, my guy can do that with one arm tied behind him. He literally can, he actually does this stuff and he really worked at it to make it, and he consistently pushes it out there like we all do, but with him it's obviously a lot more because he has a physical disability, but he's able to keep getting better. I heard him he got a brand new Yamaha acoustic kit the other day, and this thing was a monster, and it just sounded incredible. He was just playing it, and you would never have known that's a drum with one arm. So, he has his special kit that's got like a bunch of different pedals on that, but when you hear him on a regular acoustic kit, he just sounds amazing. His dynamics are just all there. And the sound of the snare is a lot of the time it's how you tune it, but also it's how you play it, and that's what, I really dug, hearing him play an acoustic kit. So hopefully we'll persuade him to do a couple of songs on this thing, because it was like, whoa, this is great. I just love hearing him play like that as well, just having that thing. But no, he's a hero. He does such amazing stuff.
Really a remarkable cat. And for people who are listening who are not familiar, their drummer was in a car wreck in the 80s, lost one of his arms, relearned to play with just one arm, using some of the technology that you just heard Phil discussing with pedals and other adaptive measures for the disability. And it just is, it'd be inappropriate not to mention it because he's the only cat in the entire world like this. So he's really, you talk about a one of a kind, it's pretty heavy when you stop and think, wow, there's nobody like Rick. Nobody.
Right. I mean, absolutely.
And there's an area of your life I was hoping to hear why you are. I love animals. They touch me big time, and all kinds of animals. Apple snail. I love rhinos. I love elephants. I love cats and dogs.
Fantastic.
And I look at you, you're a vegan. You're apparently so much of an animal lover that you've worked to support PETA. And so I wonder what made this happen in your life that you've been able to be this way for decades?
Really easy. My grandmother made me, left me a steak once. This is when I was a kid. I was, I guess, a teenager, and I'd always felt weird about eating meat because it kind of felt like I was eating a dead body, which essentially you are. And she left this bit of meat there, and it was bleeding, and it had veins in it. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to put this in my mouth. And then the more I got into that kind of thought process, I couldn't do it. I always described Jeffrey Dahmer's fridge. When they found Jeffrey Dahmer, they got all these body parts and they were in jars, and everyone freaked out, which obviously it was horrific and disgusting. But that's what is in most people's fridges anyway. They're just animal parts. So they're living creatures. And so just the whole thing of it just horrified me. It was like, I saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the 70s and the original one, and that kind of put me off as well. So when I made the absolute change and went over, I felt really good. I actually felt quite empowered to myself. It was relief, because I don't have to eat this stuff anymore. And then I just just got more into it, and then, more things went, eggs went pretty early on, and all dairy and everything went completely like 7 or 8 years ago. So I've been totally vegan since then.
And it began you were really young. So you're saying it started when you were like before you were a teenager. How old were you with the steak thing?
Well, the steak thing was probably, I was a teenager then, but as a kid, I actually had this feeling that it would kind of freak me out a little bit. So I didn't feel comfortable eating it. But I did anyway because of, peer pressure or whatever, you know.
Right, for society, it is. They make it seem like you should eat this, and it's like, never mind that the pig is like as smart as a dog. Don't think about that. You just want to eat it, you know. It's kind of like
same thing when I give up drinking. You know, the amount of people that want you to go and just have one or take drugs or whatever. Go and just try this, and it's peer pressure a lot of the time, you know, especially with kids. But as me as an adult, again, it was really empowering to not do that. And, you know, me and Steve Clark, we were best friends, and, you know, I was able to stop, and unfortunately he wasn't. But the food thing is a very similar thing. It kind of, I really didn't want to do it, and I was actually carrying on eating this stuff really to please other people. And when I stopped, it gave me a sense of empowerment of myself, and it was just a choice. You know, I didn't care. Anyone can eat whatever they want. They can drink whatever, and it's totally cool. But me personally, I like doing what I want to do, not what someone else, you know, says to do. So that was kind of cool.
People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Just the name sounds really cool. What have you done to help them?
Oh, this was a long time ago. They were doing some campaign. I forget exactly what it was, but it was children as well. My oldest son's 28, and he's been a vegetarian since birth, as is my 13-year-old daughter, Samantha. They've been all along. So that's kind of interesting from their point of view. They just never wanted to do that. So that's kind of cool. But
I love that.
Yeah, I think it was something to do with children, if I'm not mistaken. Like I said, it was a long time ago.
Are you passionate about pets? Do you have any pets in your life?
I'm so passionate about pets that my last pet, Shaq, my dog, who passed away in 2015, I was like, I can't get another dog. You know, he was a rescue. I just took him in. My ex-wife and son found 3 dogs, you know, abandoned in California. It was 110 degrees in San Bernardino, and they said, "Well, you want to take him for a weekend?" I said, "No, come on." My other dog had just died, and I took him on, and that, you know, 13 years later, you know, he was awesome. So I travel so much, and it's really hard for me. But he was great. I love him. I love animals, but he was like a person.
And on a larger scale, as a vegan, and some of the reasons that you said you're not into it, do you have any reaction to your home country, the United Kingdom, initiating a historic ivory ban just recently?
Well, I think it's awesome. I think that they should be done. All of these are endangered species. They're disappearing. I mean, the last white rhino went. I mean, that's going to be gone. So I don't see why everyone wouldn't do that. I mean, we know what happens. You know, someone somewhere says, well, it's a mal enhancement, you know, it makes you virile and makes you do all this stuff, and someone believes that about ivory and tusks and stuff. And so while there's someone, you know, spreading that kind of stuff, you're going to have this. But I think it was a great thing to do that. I think most countries should. Most civilized countries should do that.
Right. Well, it seems very obvious, doesn't it, when you think about that? I mean, who thinks it's cool to shoot a slow-moving animal that cannot hide?
Exactly.
I mean, Did you hear that Donald Trump planned to allow the bodies of murdered elephants into the United States, and did you have any reaction?
I didn't hear about it. So what enlighten me? What happened?
He and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service said they would begin to review on a case-by-case basis the import of trophies of elephants shot in Africa by wealthy American hunters, on the concept that if this kind of thing occurs in a controlled way, that somehow that money can help with conservation. And this is an argument they make while the elephant population declines by 10 to 15,000 per year from poaching.
Wow. I was, obviously lying. The thing about that, you know, and those hunters that do the canned hunting and that, I've always said, look, if you really want to show how badass you are, take your clothes off, take your shoes off, and just get a stick and go and hunt a bear or an elephant or a tiger or something, and let's see how you do. And then it's kind of a bit more balanced, you know. It's but the canned hunting thing is atrocious. It's disgusting. It's, you know, whatever, you know, hunting goes on and in other places, and it's what it is. But that whole thing is pretty cowardly. It's no other word for it, you know. I don't get it.
When you're in town, I'm going to try to get you to sign. I have a guitar I'm going to be giving to a nonprofit that is fighting to save rhinos, and maybe
cool. Absolutely.
I would love to get you on it. You'd be in good company. I got Rick Derringer on there. I got Edgar Winter on there. I got Lee Rittenauer on there. Neil Sean. I got Al Di Meola. And you know why I'm mentioning it is because I'm thinking, just as we wrap it up with you, the one thing we never did talk about was a lot of times when I talk to cats, some of them, they'll be like 4 years old, like Chick Corea, he's getting on the piano at 4, Billy Cobham at 4 on the drums. And I think of you, the opposite. It's like who've had such a successful career, taken such good care of yourself. You didn't start on the guitar till you were 16. And I think I named all those different people. What were you listening to, and who were the cats? I know there was a relative in the picture, but talk about what happened then that made this late start change that would change your whole life.
Well, I thought it was like completely out of reach, something like that. You'd hear, Zeppelin, Purple and all of this stuff, and Hendrix, and you go, oh my God, these guys are gods and everything. I went to my first show. I was at 14. It was Deep Purple, and I said, that's all I want to do. So I pestered with my mum and dad, got this guitar. I also got this album. It was called the Guitar album, and it had Roy Buchanan, Jimi Hendrix, Jan Ackerman, Freddie King, Albert King, B.B. King, just everyone on it, Hendrix, and there was something about it. It kind of really touched me. And I just followed it all the way through. But what was really interesting, I never played slide guitar, but I listened to Joe Walsh, Duane Allman for years. And I had an injury. This is about 5 years ago. My tendon tore off the knuckle. It's kind of like a boxer's knuckle, they call it. And that's probably, I was overtraining, and it just happened. It went off. And I learned to play slide because I was 6 weeks in a cast, and all my wrists went all limp, and I couldn't do anything, couldn't play guitar. So I learned slide. And what was interesting, because of years and years of listening to the stuff, I could pretty much play. When I got the technique, I literally went on a Joe Walsh YouTube link for 10 minutes. He said, this is how you play slide guitar. And he tuned it up like he said. He put the finger where he said, this is where you hold it. And all of a sudden, all the licks were just coming out, because I'd heard them for years. I was a Ry Cooder fan, Duane Allman, and Joe Walsh. And the slide stuff almost started immediately. So I think there was something similar with the guitar. I actually, even with the regular guitar, I'd heard all this stuff. Same with singing. You hear all this stuff. I was a huge fan of Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, and, Paul Rogers, just like kind of blues, soul-orientated stuff. And when I did start, got a little bit of singing technique on the go and guitar playing, it almost felt like I'd been doing it for years, because I'd been listening to that stuff for years. And it was just locking into the tool of that expression. And for me, it was guitar and voice, and I was surprised. I didn't realize that until way later, but I think that absolutely has something to do with it. That starting so late, but being able to do all this stuff kind of earlier on was interesting. But I think, if you intellectualize it, I think that's really what was going on there. I think I'd heard the stuff, and I knew it in my head and could feel it. It was very soulful and everything. But from that point on, I got to put it out.
It's incredible. That's an incredible story, and so different than other cats. Was that Blackmore in Purple at the time you saw him?
That was amazing. It was
Tommy Bolin.
No, I saw that. I saw Tommy Bolin. I loved the Billy Cobham album. In fact, on the G3 tour, we opened up with a Billy Cobham song that had Tommy Bolin called Quadrant 4 off Billy Cobham's first solo album. So we would open that with that, and that was awesome. But I saw Purple with Richie Blackmore. It was on the Machine Head tour.
Incredible.
That was the first one, yeah.
Incredible. And you ever get to meet him?
Blackmore, I did, for sure, yeah.
You did?
Absolutely, yeah, a few times. Actually come and jam with us on stage. He came, my old band Girl, he came and played with us.
Whoa. back in the Rainbow era for him, I guess it was.
Absolutely, yeah, and that was just mind-blowing. That was crazy.
What a cool thing. And your final question for you, any other hero encounters like that just stick out that you would say?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got to play with Jeff Beck just over a year ago. That was mind-blowing. And Jimmy Page, it was just... obviously Brian May, but Jimmy, said the most wonderful things and was just really supportive. When we was doing all the rehearsals and that, he'd be going there and trying to get them to turn my guitar up and everything. And it was just wonderful being around him and Jeff Beck, and two absolute idols. And again, I just got to play with the Who. We played a couple of shows down in South America. And it was just really cool hanging out with Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey. It was amazing. So all of these people had a huge impact on my life, and to hang out with them and then be super cool was just great,
It's gigantic. It's Phil Collen from Def Leppard, and a formidable guitarist, great singer, and really nice guy, too, as you've been hearing here. He is coming to town, Blaisdell Arena. We're really stoked for that. It's a historic return. They have not been in the island since 1983 when they did a pair of dates at the arena. So this is a really big deal. Plus, they're going to be playing the Hysteria album in its entirety. And as he said, not only is it the only place in North America they're going to be doing it on the tour, they've only done it in 2 other spots anywhere in the world. So this is going to be really cool. Hopefully when you're in town, we'll get to spend a little time with you. Maybe you'll do a follow-up thing if you have a moment.
Love to. That would be amazing. Absolutely.
And you have fun today?
Great. Actually, excellent. Really, really cool. Actually, really cool.
I like talking to you. You're fun. And did Melissa send you? Thank you, brother. Did Melissa send you a little ID thing or no?
Oh, she did, and I said I'd be driving because I was driving that first part, but I can do something if you want. Aloha, it's Phil Collen from Def Leppard. I don't care if you're giving away a lifetime supply of veggie burgers. I won't miss this show. You and I listen to All Things Considered with our good friend and fellow animal lover, David Lawrence. But like a tasty veggie burger, public radio isn't free. So please make a pledge, whatever you can afford. And thanks for giving HPR a helping hand.
You're so cooperative, Phil. I appreciate it, brother. Just try.
No worries. That's great.
And when you come to town, hopefully we can get a couple minutes of time with you. I'll come to the arena, the hotel. If you got time, I'll bring you to the studio, whatever.
Sounds great, actually. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll set it up with Melissa. She's actually been here in our studio. She came with her kids.
Really?
Yeah, she came with her kids, and we have a 75-seat performance space in the room. We've had people like Taj Mahal in there, Roger McGuinn of the Byrds, Ziggy Marley, Stanley Jordan. Do you like him? Guitar player, Stanley?
Yeah, no, he's incredible.
Yeah, had him in there. Lots of different people in that room. Neil Sean from Journey. So if I'll run it by her, and you'll see what your schedule's like. But love to do something with you.
No, that'd be awesome. Wow, yeah, definitely.
And thanks again. I'm giving you a hug and a high five. I really appreciate it. And thanks for doing.
Pleasure.
Thanks for sticking up for the animals. Be safe. I'll talk to you soon, Phil.
You too. Thank you.
Aloha, brother.
Soon.
Bye.
Cheers. Aloha. Bye.